Welcome to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keith in the studios of our flagship stations, Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM, which you can find on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. Where you'll also find us on television in the Birmingham-Bloomfield area, on Birmingham Area Municipal Access, and in Southfield on City Cable 15 of Southfield. Join us on Channel 10 in Waterford on the Media Network of Waterford, where we'll be joined by the Media Network's very own Jeff Decker next week, Tuesday, right here in the studio. We'll co-host the Oakland County Hour of the Megacast. Very excited about that upcoming special edition of the Oakland County Megacast. You can also find us on Channel 10 in Orion Township and Lake Orion on Orion Neighborhood Television, otherwise known as ONTV, which airs us live to tape in the afternoons, 1 p.m., and in the wee hours of the morning for you night owls at 1 a.m. You can join us on the Megacast there, where living is a vacation. Also join us on the radio in the Birmingham, Bloomfield, and Troy areas on the Biff Radio Network, 88.1, the Biff WBFH, a service of the Bloomfield Hills School District, and online in a number of different places. On Facebook, on your mobile phone, and on, of course, your computer at facebook.com/CivicCenterTV15 and facebook.com/LakesFM, as well as on our website, CivicCenterTV.com. Click on our Watch Live link. That's in a couple different places. On your computer web browser, it's easy. Top of the page, second from the right, Watch Live. You click on that, click on the player, and there you go. You're watching us live during our shows, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, Monday through Friday, as well as all of our other original programming and those wonderful municipal meetings that we air all throughout the week, as well as for replays in the afternoons. You can also find our Watch Live link on your mobile phone and some other mobile devices such as tablets in the left margin of the screen at CivicCenterTV.com. Second from the bottom of that list, Watch Live, same deal. Watch us anytime, anywhere, all around the world at CivicCenterTV.com. You can also find us, same kind of method, all around the world, anywhere, anytime at My Michigan TV, otherwise known as MyMy. Visit their website, MyMyTV.com, to learn more information. That is MyMyTV.com for those of you listening on the radio that want to go to that website, or just go to our website at CivicCenterTV.com and click on our Megacast page, where we have links to every single one of our partnering television, radio, and web outlets that join us every single day so you can learn more information. And, of course, find all of our full shows and each individual interview on demand. That is CivicCenterTV.com/Megacast. Right next door to that is our coronavirus page at CivicCenterTV.com/coronavirus, where right smack at the top of the page we have links to the COVID-19 specific web pages for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, otherwise known as the CDC, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, or MDHHS, and the Oakland County Health Division, or Oakland County Health Division. You click on any of those pages, it takes you directly to their COVID-19 specific web pages, which allows you to find all the information you need to know that's accurate, that's up to date, that is factual, and that is from experts on the front lines, from the federal level at the CDC, the MDHHS here at the state level, and locally here in Oakland County from the Oakland County Health Division. CivicCenterTV.com/coronavirus. We're right below that. On our page each and every day, we scour news outlets from all across the great state of Michigan to find the top stories affecting us here in Oakland County and all throughout the Great Lakes State. And, of course, big story yesterday coming in was the massive fire causing extensive damage over at Oakland Hills Country Club. This is from the Detroit News. A massive blaze on Thursday caused extensive damage to the Oakland Hills Country Club, complicating the future of the ornate and historic facility that has been host to major national golf championships. People in the clubhouse alerted firefighters to the smell of smoke at 9:17 a.m., according to Bloomfield Township Fire Chief John Leroy. Firefighters used thermal imaging cameras and drilled inspection holes in the ceiling to find flames in the attic. It was difficult to find the cause of the smell in such a large building, Leroy said. The clubhouse is 110,000 square feet. The stately clubhouse was engulfed by mid-morning in a blaze of spectacular size. The fire lost some strength by mid-afternoon, but by 6:20 p.m. had once again grown on the south end of the building. Crews remained on the scene through 11 p.m. on Thursday night and were expected to stay throughout the night, the Township Fire Department said. Quote, "It was a tough day," said Rick Palmer, Oakland Hills Club president. Palmer continued on by saying, quote, "It's really a devastating day for Oakland Hills, for the golf community, for our members, for our staff. There's so much history, but the blessings are nobody was injured and everybody got out of the building," and closed quote. He described the back of the building as, quote unquote, "not recoverable." Oakland Hills is over a century old and highly ranked in the golf industry. and was poised to host major championships in the next decade. The clubhouse also is a museum of sorts, displaying photos, paintings, trophies, and other artifacts from major tournaments over the years. A trophy case near the front entrance displayed replica trophies of tournaments won by the likes of Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, and Ben Hogan. Palmer and Leroy both praised firefighters for rescuing a significant number of artifacts in the clubhouse, saying, quote, "Well, we've had some mutual aid crews that were instructed where things were since the fire was in the attic at the time," Leroy said, continuing on. "They were able to get the locations they could get to quickly, pull that memorabilia out and hand it to club members at the front door and go back in." And closed quote. It's unclear how much was salvaged and how much damage the clubhouse sustained. Firefighters were using aerial ladders to spray the clubhouse roof, and much of the afternoon smoke billowed south for miles. The multi-story clubhouse featured a pro shop, dining halls, locker rooms, banquet facilities, meeting rooms, and many more amenities for its membership of about 750 people. Many of the members socialized there even when not golfing, including throughout the winter, and it was a popular venue for weddings and receptions as well. Chief Leroy said he expected firefighters would continue fighting the blaze into Friday morning, saying, quote, "We're still pouring a tremendous amount of water on this. At this point, we're just going to be providing copious amounts of water to put it out as best as we can and as safe as we can." The fire official who gave an evening briefing said the building was likely going to need to be rebuilt. More than half a dozen departments assisted, including firefighters from Farmington Hills, Rochester Hills, Southfield, and Franklin. It will take days to determine the cause of the fire, said Chief Leroy. There has been recent construction going on the patio. Members said it's unclear if that was related to the fire. That full article from the Detroit News on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Also making headlines today down in Wayne County, they have dropped their school mask mandate effective immediately. This is from our friends at the Detroit Free Press. Wayne County's chief medical officer rescinded a mask mandate for K-12 schools on Thursday morning, effective immediately, following the state health officials who on Wednesday dropped a statewide mask advisory. Starting at 8 a.m. Thursday, students and staff at all of the county schools were no longer required to wear masks under the county public health order. Local officials, however, still have the authority to issue their own mask rules and may continue to mandate them. Dr. Avani Sheth, the chief medical officer for the health department, said in a statement that even though masks won't be required in K-12 schools, they remain an important tool to slow the spread of coronavirus. Quote, "Children should still continue to be supported to wear a mask, including but not limited to, for reasons such as individual or household risk factors and vaccination status," Dr. Sheath said. At Grosse Ile Township Schools, Superintendent Valerie Orr said in an email to parents on Thursday morning announcing that the school district would follow the county health department's guidance. Quote, "Given the timing of their announcement, we are asking that our students continue to mask today until they have a chance to speak with their parents this evening about whether or not they should continue to mask," Orr wrote, continuing on, saying, "However, we will not be enforcing any mask mandate today," and closed quote. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services updated its mask recommendations Wednesday for indoor public settings, saying that rapidly falling coronavirus case rates and hospitalizations suggest the state has moved into a post-surge recovery phase. Quote, "During this phase, the NBHHS recommends that all individuals, regardless of vaccination status, continue to practice universal masking in high-risk congregate settings, including long-term care facilities, homeless shelters, correctional facilities, jails, and healthcare facilities," and closed quote, was said in the statement. Quote, "All individuals, regardless of their vaccination status, should also wear a mask during isolation and quarantine periods to stop further community spread of COVID-19, and closed quote. State health officials said school districts should work with their local health departments to set a mask policy. School mask mandates are to expire at 11:59 p.m. on Thursday in Antrim, Charlevoix, Emmett, and at Seago counties, which are served by the Health Department of Northwest Michigan, and in Benzie and Leelanau counties, which fall under the jurisdiction of the Benzie-Leelanau District Health Department. Ingham County's emergency public health order requiring masks in K-12 schools expires as of midnight on Saturday, of course, for all those in school on Sunday. Oakland and Washtenaw counties are Oakland and Washtenaw counties will no longer require masks in K-12 schools as of February 28th. Quote, with the continued decline in cases and hospitalizations, we are now entering a post-surge recovery phase, end close quote, said Dr. Natasha Bagdasarian, the state's chief medical executive, in a statement on Wednesday. Dr. Bagdasarian continued, as we move through the phases of our COVID-19 response, our recommendations will be updated to reflect the current status of transmission, but we will continue to prioritize public health and promote health and wellness for all families and communities, end close quote. The state health department still suggests that those who are immunocompromised or otherwise especially vulnerable to COVID-19 wear masks. Although pandemic trends are rapidly improving, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention still recommends universal masking in K-12 schools and all indoor public places when transmission is high. As of Thursday morning, all but one county in Michigan, Presque Isle, said that it still had high transmission rates. Dr. Rochelle Walensky, director of the CDC, said Wednesday that the agency is considering an update to its mask guidance and is looking not only at transmission of the virus, but also hospital capacity. Quote, we are assessing the most important factors based on where we are in this pandemic, and we will soon put guidance in place that is relevant and encourages prevention measures when they are most needed to protect public health and our hospitals, end close quote. Walensky said. Dr. Walensky continued on, we want to give people a break from things like mask wearing when these metrics are better, and then have the ability to reach for them again should things worsen. If and when we update our guidance, we will communicate that clearly, and it will be based on the data and the science. However, it's also important to remember, regardless of the level of disease burden in your community, there are still very important times to continue to wear a mask. If you're symptomatic or feeling unwell, you should wear a mask. If you are in the 10 days after a COVID diagnosis, you should wear a mask. If you're exposed to someone with COVID and are quarantining, you should continue to wear a mask. That full article, as well as supporting materials linked in that article from the Detroit Free Press on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Lastly, making headlines down in Ann Arbor at the University of Michigan, U of M is planning a $190 million dormitory project on the north end of its campus. This also from our friends at the Detroit News. For the first time in many years, the University of Michigan will build new dormitories. 3 residence halls for undergraduates are part of a proposed $190 million plan on U of M's North Campus to be open by fall semester 2024. On Thursday, the Board of Regents approved the project, which will include demolition of the apartment buildings in Northwood 3, 8 buildings that now are only used for COVID-19 quarantine and isolation housing. The new residence halls to be approved at a later date will total 380,000 square feet and will include 1,200 beds. Future plans may include dining, student wellness spaces, and a geothermal unit to heat and cool the spaces as well. The Regents authorized issuing bids and awarding contracts for demolition and site preparation at a cost not to exceed $5 million. They also approved Chicago-based architect Solomon Gordwell Buenas to design the project. Funding for the project will come from Student Life Resources, university officials said in a request outlining the project. U of M Vice President for Student Life, Martino Harmon, said the first phase of the North Campus housing project will help address the university's housing shortage. Quote, currently the demand for University of Michigan housing exceeds the supply, said Harmon, continuing on. Although we are able to house all first-year incoming students who need housing, second, third, and fourth-year students, as well as transfer students, are not always able to obtain housing at the university. It is our position that we want all students who need and want housing to have a bed, end close quote. The project will have a short-term impact on displacement of students, however, Harmon said, saying, quote, yet it will make a long-term impact on student well-being. That full article from our friends at the Detroit News on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, as well as those ever-helpful articles from our friends all across the state of Michigan, a number of different great journalistic outlets. While you click on those articles, you go to their pages, you read their other articles and supporting materials as well. Highly encourage you, should you have the means to do so, to subscribe to these publications and support local journalism all across the state of Michigan. We have a great show ahead of you today on, it's kind of a look back at some of our favorites from this week of the Megacast, and then we'll have a fresh new interview with of course, our friends over at Share Detroit and one of their supported charities at the bottom of the program. But coming up, we'll look back at all of our favorite interviews from this week. At 10:20, we'll have Dr. Jamie Wolfe from Grand River Medical Associates on the program. At 10:40, Pamela Good from Beyond Basics and Cynthia Weber-Hesselich from the Wayne and Joan Weber Foundation, who we had on yesterday. We'll play that interview for you to talk about the Joan and Wayne Weber Foundation's $1 million donation to Beyond Basics that now puts that total of the monies that they have donated to that organization since 2006 at $6 million. At 11 o'clock, we'll kick off the Michigan Megacast, looking back at our interview with Paulette Epstein from the Michigan Science Center, who will talk all about their exhibit coming up, all about volcanoes, including an IMAX film that will provide a four-dimensional experience in their 4D theater. At 11:20, we'll once again go over the everything you need to know about the Oscars coming up, as well as the film industry, with Nate Adams from Rotten Tomatoes and, of course, theonlycritic.com. And then we'll cap off the interview with one more fresh conversation for the week with Jamie Wolfe, the Vice President and Treasurer, as well as the co-founder of N.B.S. Animal Rescue, a Share Detroit-supported charity and nonprofit. That's all coming up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources. Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit, or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
Whether you're the city,
the county,
Or the Huron River Watershed Council.
we work together to protect water resources for everyone.
Most of the pollution entering our rivers is carried by rainwater that runs off roads, parking lots, and rooftops.
a rain garden helps catch stormwater runoff.
Rain gardens and their plants help dirty runoff soak into the ground.
You can do your part to help keep our water clean.
Learn about rain gardens and native plants.
So consider a rain garden in your home landscaping.
Catch the runoff with a rain garden.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
I couldn't breathe at all. There was lots of talk about putting me on a ventilator. I thought I was gonna die. I was 39 weeks pregnant and had a scheduled C-section. During that time, I got COVID and was hospitalized for a month. I had a blood clot in my lungs. It caused me to go into right-sided heart failure. I was really scared. I kept texting my husband and my mom, telling them how scared I was, and I was worried that he was gonna grow up without a mom. And then I was worried if, when I did get home, that he wouldn't know who I was. You know, being 27 and a mom and a wife and having that all almost taken away from me. It's scary, and if a vaccine can prevent that from happening, why not? Get your vaccine. I don't want this to happen to anybody else.
A message from the staff of Michigan's Crime Victim Compensation Program.
Anyone can be a victim of crime
and suffer lasting trauma, physically, emotionally, and financially.
But you are not alone.
If you're struggling financially due to a crime,
we're here
for you. Find out if you qualify for crime victim compensation. Call 877-251-7373 or visit michigan.gov/crime-victim.
A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Victim Services.
Joining us now is Dr. Jamie Tawil. He is an internal medicine specialist at Grand River Medical Associates. With us once again on the Megacast. Dr. Tawil, thank you for being back with us.
How you doing?
Doing well. How are you doing?
I'm getting there. It's been an interesting couple of months, but we're doing all right.
It has been. It seems like now, with case numbers starting to trend back downward, that it seems that we are on the back end of that major surge we had with the Omicron variant and kind of that mixture of the Omicron variant and the Delta variant here in the state of Michigan. So at your practice and in the local medical community around you in southeastern Michigan, where are we in terms of addressing the COVID-19 pandemic, and more importantly, the stress that the pandemic during this most recent surge and all these surges we've had really have put on our medical community?
Well, things are starting to slow down a bit, and thank the Lord. The Christmas, the holiday season, things went through the roof. We had a huge surge that was out of control, and everyone got it, myself included. Actually, I managed to pick up COVID somehow, and that all happened during the holidays. The majority of the people got it during the Christmas, New Year's time, and a little bit thereafter. But it looks like it's now trending down. So I think a lot of the strain that's happening to the healthcare systems in the area are starting to ease up a little bit. I was reading a statistic today where typically COVID cases were taking up to 23% of hospital beds. Is now down to about 12%. Don't quote me on those numbers. It was something I just was reading a little bit earlier today, but it looks like it's starting to trend down. We're not out of the woods yet, but we're definitely making improvements.
And so and on that note, too, one of the ways that we are able to make some of those improvements, or at least relieve some of that stress that's put on our hospital systems, on our medical community in the times of these surges, and even outside of those surges, is through vaccination and through the booster shots. Dr. Fauci recently said, as did other medical experts, they stated that it seems the effects of the COVID-19 booster shots that are available, they start to wane after about 4 months. Would you imagine that? Have you been hearing that at all? And if so, if you're hearing something similar to that, would you imagine that the COVID-19 booster shots, and we've heard so many times that this may just become something similar to your annual flu shot, would in this case maybe be something that's more often needed than the flu shot until we get to a point where maybe there is that booster once a year and these variants aren't spreading so quickly?
I don't know 100% about that, but I do feel that the booster shots are going to be a little bit waning. I think that again, the amount of people that I've found that have been getting COVID has gone up significantly as of late, specifically, again, over the holidays. And a lot of those people had been vaccinated. So I do feel that the booster shot might be wearing down a little bit. And I have no doubt in my mind that it's going to be something that we're going to have to get recurrent. We're going to have to keeping up against any variants that come up. It can be a little bit frustrating to keep receiving booster shots, but I feel like it will be an annual thing. That's, again, my words, not anyone else's. It's just my thoughts. But it seems as if that's the case. However, I do feel that people that have been vaccinated and boosted are getting much, much less severe cases of COVID. I mean, a lot of the people that have gotten COVID that have been vaccinated and boosted have had very mild cases, mild upper respiratory symptoms, fatigue, loss of sense of smell, and otherwise have been doing pretty okay for the most part. We're also seeing significant amounts of people that are trying to get the treatments like the monoclonal antibody treatments and things like that at the local hospitals as well. And some hospitals are allowing it and some hospitals aren't, but it seems to be improving people along the way.
We're joined by Dr. Jamie Tawil, internal medicine specialist at Grand River Medical Associates, with us on the Megacast. Dr. Tawil, another issue we've heard a lot about throughout the pandemic, especially as things have started to open back up, is that continued reluctance that some may have been having to go see their doctor, to get those annual checkups, to go in for those ailments and those aches that they may need to get checked by their doctor or by a specialist. Have we seen that sort of issue wane a little bit in recent months as things have continued to open back up, and especially now as we're starting to see a dip in coronavirus cases as we're coming out of this most recent surge with the Omicron variant?
So I have seen, when COVID first hit, people were avoiding all types of preventative care. People weren't getting their colonoscopies. A lot of that was due to hospitals closing down their elective surgeries. People weren't getting mammograms. People were afraid to get imaging because they didn't want to go to those hospitals because of the overwhelming burden that was on them from the the variant wave, I'm now starting to see people starting to open up a lot more. So we are getting a lot more preventative cases back in. This is starting to become more annual physicals and not so much head colds and COVID. So it is picking up a little bit. There are people that are still trying to avoid it. There are people that have a lot of significant comorbidities, people that are high risk that are still avoiding going out there. And I can understand that, respect that. Excuse me. We are still doing there's still a lot of physicians that are doing virtual appointments to try and keep things along, but it doesn't replace, getting labs, getting a stethoscope on you, having a doctor examine you, making sure that everything's okay. Hopefully I'm answering that question for you.
Yeah, and among those checks that you're getting when you're going to your doctor are, of course, respiratory checks and some basic cardiac checks as well. This is American Heart Month, and so we're trying to keep our hearts as healthy as possible. It's raising awareness for that, and of course, stress, a big factor in cardiac health, and we've had a number of different additional stressors in addition to all those normal things come into play over the last couple of years. Have you noticed an increase in patients with some heart ailments as a result of some of those stresses or compounding stressors and factors during the pandemic or more recently because of either inactivity or added stresses or other factors in the last couple of years?
So yeah, I have noticed a lot of, let me say that just for, again, anecdotally here, what I am seeing a lot more of is patients that are having a lot more chest pain. People have gained a lot of weight during COVID. I'm no exception. And they've been a lot less active. People are working from home and it has changed a lot of their lifestyles. So I am seeing patients that are having a little bit more significant symptoms of chest pain, either it be from them being sedentary versus otherwise. But there's also been some increases in cardiac things, but I also think that's because people are starting to come back out of the woodwork and going to the doctors. We are catching some things ahead of time. We are also seeing a lot, I'm still seeing a lot of patients that are coming in after their hospitalization for an unfortunate heart attack. So it's picking up a little bit. And I think it's also because we're now looking at it a little bit more. We're now able to accept the bandwidth of being able to see patients for other things other than just COVID. I know the cardiologists that I work with are busier than they have ever been. So it's just been, I think, a lot of catch up, so to speak.
And so we hear a lot about different risk factors that can increase your chances of heart disease or of cardiac issues, things like living a sedentary lifestyle, like a high cholesterol or high salt diet are among some of those things that can lead to cardiac issues. But what are some more uncommon things that or activities or factors that people may not be considering that can often lead to heart-related issues?
Absolutely. So the things that you want to be really, really aware of is family history. If you have a family history of heart disease, you got to be on the lookout because that can always be an issue for you. If you have high cholesterol, if you have high blood pressure, diabetic is a big, huge risk factor. So if you're a diabetic and you're not having good control of your blood sugars, that can be a significant problem for you. So you really want to try and keep your sugars under control. You want to make sure that your diet is going to be low in cholesterol, get your cholesterol checked, all that fun stuff. Another huge one is smoking. And bear in mind, smoking is, the carcinogens in the tobacco is always going to cause lung damage as well as heart issues, but the nicotine is what's also causing heart issues as well. So people that have switched from cigarettes to vape pens, for example, or vaping devices, there's still nicotine in that, which can increase your risk for heart disease. So, people that often feel like, hey, I'm moving towards a more safer alternative for cigarettes. While you are moving in a good direction, there's still a lot of things out there that is really bad about those things, and they can sometimes even be worse in certain cases. But let's not reduce the fact that it can also continue your risk for heart disease as well. So please, if you can, if you're a patient and you have a family history or you're smoking, diabetic, high blood pressure, try to get those under control as best as possible, or else, that's going to come for you, unfortunately. We got to try and reduce that risk as much as possible.
And we've also heard a lot over the course of the pandemic about people maybe increasing their alcohol intake as well from being maybe casual a few drinks per week pre-pandemic to when they were home more often during the pandemic. They didn't have as much to do. They were on their own time, having their own fun, and maybe indulging a little bit with alcohol. How does alcohol consumption and that lack of moderation or change in what they consider moderation affect heart health?
A lot of ways. First and foremost, let's not forget the fact that alcohol has a significant amount of calories, so weight gain is going to be a big factor. Alcohol consumed in excess will also cause your blood pressure to rise significantly, and that is going to cause a significant amount of stress to your heart. Patients that drink quite frequently will also find themselves putting themselves at higher risk for atrial fibrillation, which is an arrhythmia of the heart, which can cause further heart problems down the line. Increases your risk for sleep apnea, which can cause stress on the heart. It can also just a plethora of risk factors. And I am seeing a rise in alcohol consumption due to people being at home more often, due to people having increased anxiety over this entire pandemic and being at home. Being at home full time and working from home is stressful. You're not away from your office. Your office is at your house, and it's difficult to relax. The stress of family can sometimes just compound it, because sometimes family plus work do not mix well. It can be a lot. So trying to reduce alcohol consumption is going to be a big thing, because it can definitely impact your heart in multiple ways.
So if people that may be considering themselves to be, generally speaking, healthy, or may not feel like they have cardiac issues or having heart problems, but may have some risk factors, what should they be looking out for in terms of symptoms, in terms of feelings that they may experience that may be either symptomatic or at least maybe just be basic indicators that a problem could be oncoming, or that they are currently experiencing some cardiac issues?
Absolutely. Well, it can be different for everybody, but the common I'm having heart problems is going to be, chest pressure, sometimes can go up the neck or down the left arm, can sometimes have shortness of breath, nausea, sweating. Those are big indicators. Those are, I need to go to the ER immediately. However, subtle signs of heart disease include difficulty breathing, or I'm feeling significantly fatigued when I'm doing things that normally were not a big issue. We get a lot of patients that are, they sit around for a long period of time. They've been sitting home because of the pandemic. It snows. They go outside and they start shoveling. They suddenly exert themselves to a significant amount, and they can really cause problems. We see a lot of heart attacks from that, as well as people that are like hunters that are in the woods, drinking booze and just minding their own business. And then they shoot a deer. And now they have to drag 100 pounds across the forest in the middle of winter. It can sometimes cause some heart issues as well. Things that you're going to want to look for before those big events are going to be anything that's sudden or different. So I get a lot of patients that come in and go, yeah, I'm a little short of breath, but I think it might just be due to age. But if they weren't short of breath a few months ago and suddenly it's starting to become a big deal, like going up the stairs, I'm feeling really tired and fatigued, and I'm getting a little sweaty, palpitations, lightheadedness, dizziness, headaches, things like that. Those are all subtle signs that you could be having some heart issues, and you should get that looked at.
We're joined by Dr. Jamie Wolfe, internal medicine specialist at Grand River Medical Associates, joining us on the Megacast. And Dr. Wolfe, over the past weekend, a Detroit radio, longtime Detroit radio broadcaster, Frank Beckman, passed away, and he had died of what was termed vascular dementia. Can you tell us, what is vascular dementia, and then tell us what can cause that condition in somebody?
Certainly, and I'm sorry to hear about that. My heart goes out to his family. The vascular dementia is a subset of dementia. Dementia has multiple causes, the number one cause being Alzheimer's dementia, but there's a subset called vascular dementia, which is dementia caused by any type of issues with regards to blood flow of the brain. So anyone that has a stroke with mental status changes beyond that will have issues that can be considered vascular dementia. People that have really bad coronary disease or really bad vascular disease, so they're not getting blood flow to particular areas of their brain, that can cause vascular dementia. People that have heart disease that aren't getting enough blood flow to their brain, people that are having multiple emboli that are really small, they're like very small infarcts, very small occlusions in their brain that are not going to be noticeable by a stroke is pretty obvious, but multiple tiny little strokes like that kind of present themselves as dementia. The difference is based on diagnostics is going to be imaging. So when you do an imaging of the brain, you'll see that there are areas of the brain that aren't getting blood supply, and there's inflammatory issues that are going to suggest that they have vascular dementia. So it's just dementia caused by other factors other than Alzheimer's. And you can even have a mixed picture that can make things a little bit worse.
Dr. Wolfe, any other medical issues that we're seeing becoming more common across the board, or things that our community should be aware of going forward?
just the usual stuff. You want to make sure that you are staying up to date on all preventative testing, colonoscopies, mammograms, getting your heart checked, getting your diet corrected, make sure your diabetes is controlled. We're still in this pandemic, but we are getting better. So I'm very pleased to see that this is improving and the cases that I'm seeing are much more mild. This has been a godsend. So hopefully this continues in the right direction. I think we're going to continue to do well and get past this and hopefully get back to normal lives.
Dr. Tabril, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me as always.
From the staff of Michigan's Crime Victim Compensation Program.
Anyone can be a victim of crime
and suffer lasting trauma, physically, emotionally, and financially.
But you are not alone.
If you're struggling financially due to a crime,
we're here
for you.
Find out if you qualify for crime victim compensation.
Call 877-251-7373 or visit michigan.gov/crimevictim.
A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Victim Services.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanting to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Joined now by a couple of people in association with Beyond Basics. Of course, we're joined once again by their CEO and co-founder Pamela Good, as well as the president of the Wayne and Joan Weber Foundation, Cynthia Weber-Hesselich, with us on the Megacast. Thank you for being with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate having both of you on. So recently, it was announced actually yesterday that Beyond Basics received a $1 million gift from the Wayne and Joan Weber Foundation that will make a big impact, and of course literacy, which is a big topic that is covered and an issue that is covered by Beyond Basics. So let's start with you, Cynthia. You're the niece of Wayne and Joan Weber. Can you talk about these two individuals, talk about the organization, and then ultimately the decision to provide this $1 million gift to Beyond Basics?
Well, sure. My aunt and uncle started their foundation back in 2005, and primary focus is education, health initiatives, and feeding and housing for the less fortunate. Way back, 2006 or so, my uncle had the occasion to meet Pam. And at those very early stages of Beyond Basics, she explained the situation that she had encountered when she went into a school in Detroit just to deliver coats and be a helpful volunteer. And she discovered there was a lot more that was needed than just outerwear. And my uncle thought it sounded great and started to support Pam. Fast forward all these years, we've continued to support her. And one of our strongest initiatives, it's easily in the top 5 of the programs that we donate to, knowing that our dollars are being very well spent.
And so Pamela, of course, the co-founder and CEO of Beyond Basics, which received a $1 million gift from the foundation. Just how crucial at this moment in time is that $1 million gift to your organization, and what ways immediately and in the near future can that large sum of money be used to really help bolster the programs that you have in place to help provide additional literacy education for children in the Detroit area?
Well, it's absolutely essential in enabling us to, it's a bridge to reaching more and more children. So we were at a point in our growth, partially because literacy or illiteracy is being more and more talked about, but also because of the COVID issues and the learning loss with children. It's on the radar of people, and we have access to more children, and we needed more tutors, and we needed to train them. We needed to, get them working so that they would be ready in larger numbers at the beginning of the school year. And so their donation at this particular time is enabling us to reach more kids. And it also enables us to grow this organization so that we can continue every year to reach more and more children. And since it's an epidemic and there are thousands and thousands of them, it really is the bridge to future success for Beyond Basics. And we're so appreciative.
And so on that note, you mentioned that these funds can be used in large share to help continue to pay these tutors and to go toward the training that they undergo. Can you give us a little bit of insight, Pamela, on the training that is undergone by your tutors and the expense that brings in because of the amount of training and the extent of that training that has to go toward these tutors?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. One of the reasons that we're successful is that we do have a curriculum. It's precise. We do manage the day-to-day interactions with students, so there's a lot of data around that. But we essentially look for people who want to help children, and we train them. They go through 2-3 weeks of training to learn the various curriculums, and then they need to practice that, over and over again so that they become seasoned and can work with a child and be very successful. Our tutors are not volunteers. They are paid tutors. They become staff. They work 30 to 40 hours a week in most cases. And, our curriculum requires an hour a day, 5 days a week. And so our tutors are working with children an hour a day, 5 days a week. In many cases, they're working with 5 or 6 kids a day. And so there's lots of costs around managing an organization that employs tutors. But it is essential to give kids what they need so they can learn to read.
We're joined by Pamela Good, the CEO and the co-founder of Beyond Basics, joining us on the Megacast. In addition, we're also joined by Cynthia Weber-Hesselich, the president of the Wayne and Joan Weber Foundation, joining us on the Megacast. The Wayne and Joan Weber Foundation having announced with Beyond Basics yesterday a $1 million gift to Beyond Basics to provide continued literacy education services to kids all throughout the Detroit area. And Cynthia, your Uncle Wayne had a mantra throughout his life that was "do good." What was the origin of that mantra, and how did he then live up to that, as well as the organization now beyond his time with his time doing that in the community, then live up to that mantra every day?
Well, I recently learned about his mantra, do good. Unfortunately, my uncle passed last August, and at his memorial service, my son made mention of the fact that when he would hang up the phone with my uncle's final words were often, do good. And I think that was something that he said to the younger folks in our family, letting them know that they're blessed, and as they grow older and get more established, that it's important for them to do good in this world. I didn't know that, and so we've all kind of run with it, so to speak, because well, first of all, my grandparents, my uncle's mother and father, embodied the motto, do good. They had very little resources, the entire family did, and they gave everything they had when they had nothing left to give. And we grew up that way. And my aunt and uncle were very fortunate. My uncle was very successful in his road building business, and he began to give back approximately over 20 years ago. And his intention is for his legacy will be for all of his resources to eventually be donated. That's going to be what we're working on over the next 10 years after he's now passed. But we were talking yesterday about the concept of do good, and that sounds like immediately go out and do something good for someone. And of course, that could be opening the door, have a kind word for someone. It could be so simple, you just have no idea of how simple doing something nice or good can change a person's day. But we were also talking about the fact that it's important for you to do good for yourself. And in the case of Beyond Basics and literacy, it's important for the children to understand that they need to identify, possibly not the younger children, of course, but at an older age, what is it that they need to succeed? What is lacking in their life, and how can they go about filling that gap that they may have? There's one young man within Beyond Basics that the story is several years old now, but he actually walked into the office and said, I can't read, and wanted to be tutored. Pam, correct me if I'm wrong, it's that Elijah's story. And he took matters into his own hands so that he did not leave the high school with such a deficit. And that would be true for anybody at any age in their life. Identify what your weakness is, find a way to correct it, get the help you need, and then proceed to go forth and do good, not only for yourself, but for others. And that, to me, Beyond Basics isn't just, the nucleus, of course, is helping people to read, eradicating illiteracy, but there's more to it than that, of course. It's identifying other things in your life that may be holding you back, stumbling blocks along the way. And so we're just kind of running with that concept, and no matter what you think about really seeking to do good for yourself or for others, you really can't go wrong.
And so, Cynthia, with all that being considered, and of course you mentioned that it was your Uncle Wayne's wish that the vast resources and the fortune that he built over his lifetime eventually all be donated to continue to do good in our community beyond his life. And so you made this $1 million gift to Beyond Basics. The foundation is making other gifts to other organizations as well. How do you consider where to send some of these funds to? What goes into those decisions? What is your organization looking for, and how does that decision ultimately be made?
Well, that's a really, really excellent question, and we thought we were prepared, but I'll tell you, it's really going to take a lot. What we've been associated with, who we've been associated with in the Metro Detroit area, have been solid relationships in addition to Beyond Basics. Just before my uncle's passing, he gave a gift of $5 million to the DIA to continue the work of the Wayne and Joan Education DIA. So it's a form of an endowment. My uncle and my aunt have also given gifts to many local hospitals, and there'll be technology upgrades that are required to support the work that they've done so far. As life goes on, things are going to change dramatically and upgrades are going to need to be made. We are aligned heavily with Gleaners. We're looking forward to some conversation with them very soon. We are involved with local charter schools in Detroit. My aunt and uncle retrofitted a Detroit school building, University S Academy, back in 2010. A lot of work to do there. Oh gosh, the list goes on. We are heavily aligned with Salvation Army. We've recently had meetings with Shriners, and we're looking forward to a meeting with St. Jude Hospital. Those aren't local, of course, but they impact every child actually around the world. Education-wise is a huge initiative for us, and we just have to make sure that we are good stewards of his money, and that's our goal.
And so, Pamela, let's go back to you just we have a few more minutes with you. I do want to also ask, of course, foundations and their donations and individuals' donations are critical to the further operations of Beyond Basics and other organizations like it in our community and in other communities all around the country and around the world. But what are some other ways that people in the community, if they want to support Beyond Basics, how can they get involved and provide support to bridging the literacy gap in Detroit?
Well, I think, in addition to the resources that help us tutor and, get kids reading, advocating for literacy. It is a huge epidemic across this nation, and there really aren't enough people, working to solve this in a zealous way. So we need to have people call their representatives and their congressmen and reach out to Lansing. We need the state to become aware that, the kids that are showing up to school every day, they're capable. I've said recently that, the Wayne and Joan Weber Foundation really enabling us to tutor kids that are left behind. We've been able to prove together that the children are capable. They are all capable if given intensive one-on-one tutoring. And we need to be zealously as a community reaching those students as they show up to school. And the other piece is that as we tutor more kids, we need more tutors. And so if you're interested in tutoring, reach out to us. It's beyondbasics.org. If you know someone, just tell people that we need tutors. It is such a blessing to be able to sit beside a child and know what to do to get them reading. And, it's one of those things that blesses you while you're reaching out to help someone else. And so advocate for literacy and to also become tutors.
And so, Pamela, just following that up, we know how important those educational interventions like Beyond Basics and other programs in the Detroit area and other communities as well were so important during the pandemic to prevent the effects of some of that slide that we saw in many different areas in education for our kids because of virtual learning, because of the switch between virtual and in person, all the chaos that came from this ongoing crisis. How much of an impact or how much of an importance are these interventionary tactics and programs going to continue to be as we slowly emerge out of the pandemic and get back to whatever normal is going to be going forward, because those effects are still going to be there for a long time?
Well, it's huge. And the reason is we've had more kids fall into the gap. We've made a demarcation point that it seems like the interventions that are rolled out in the schools really serve kids that are less than a grade level behind. But the kids who are more than a grade level behind do not get assessed and do not get the literacy intervention that they need through our educational model. And what we've had over this COVID period is that we have more kids now who have slipped into the more than a grade level behind. And so, our hope is that because of this, there's more attention focused on those kids who have recently slid behind, that we will embrace all of the kids that are behind and that we won't leave anyone behind anymore. And so you're absolutely right. It's critical. And I will say that during this time when most kids have fallen behind a whole school year, our students on average improved 2 grade levels. So our kids, the ones that we tutored, are not included in that group. And if you consider the fact they didn't fall behind, we have 3 grade levels of difference between the other students going to school during COVID. So we need to raise the funds for this. We need to get the tutors trained, and we need to partner with schools and get kids reading as quickly as we can.
Pamela, Cynthia, thank you both very much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tyler. Appreciate it.
Whether you're the city,
the county,
or the Huron River Watershed Council.
As partners working together to protect our water resources, we agree.
Pet waste is the source of harmful bacteria in the Huron River.
When it's left on the ground, it can wash into the storm drains.
These lead directly to our streams. No filters, no treatment.
Here's one thing we know that can help keep our water clean.
Pick up pet waste and trash it.
Pick up pet waste and trash it.
So pick up pet waste and trash it.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Who is struggling right now?
I am.
My son is.
Many are struggling with anxiety, depression, and substance use. Before it becomes a crisis, reach out to MyCal. the Michigan Crisis and Access Line for free confidential support 24/7. Available in the Upper Peninsula in Oakland County. Just call or text 1-844-44-MyCal or chat online at michigan.gov/MyCal. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Motorcyclists are hard to see. To keep everyone safer, it's important to always look for them and know where most crashes occur. 84% of motorcycle and vehicle crashes happen on streets, not highways. And most crashes with motorcyclists occur when vehicle drivers are turning left. So before turning, especially to the left, make sure you look for motorcyclists. Then look again. It could save a life.
To Sofia and Gabriel. Even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love. These stitches and threads join us together. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
72.7% of high school students get less than the recommended 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. This can cause pain, obesity, and can very negatively affect your mental health. When you have a consistent 7 to 9 hours of sleep every day, you get sick less often, lose more weight, and have better relationships with those around you. For more information about the dangers of sleep deprivation, go to sleepfoundation.org. This message is brought to you by the WBHS Digital Media Arts Program and 89.3 Lakes FM.
Joining us now from the Michigan Science Center is Paulette Epstein, their planetarium director and astronomer, joining us on the Megacast to talk about all things volcanoes. Paulette, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you're in, of course, a virtual set for those at home. That's not an actual volcano behind you, but you'll be able to see plenty of real volcanoes and that footage of it in action and learn more about volcanoes at the Michigan Science Center very soon. They're showing The Fires of Creation, an IMAX movie that'll start airing later on this week, this Saturday, February 19th. Tell us a little bit about that film and some of the other interesting activities that are there at the Michigan Science Center about volcanoes.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said, we're going to be starting to play Volcanoes, Fires of Creation very soon here at the Michigan Science Center. So it'll begin on Saturday in our 4D theater, our Toyota Engineering 4D theater. And the film is all about volcanoes and gives us a really close-up look of some of the most amazing and deadly things on the planet. So the really cool thing about it being in our 4D theater is you actually feel like you are up close and personal with those volcanoes. So our 4D theater is the one that pokes you in the back, sprays you in the face. We have non-pyrotechnic sparks in that theater. And so when you are watching the movie, you really feel like you are a part of it, and the whole room is rumbling during some of those volcanoes, and it is a truly amazing film. Very beautiful and stunning, and really feeling like you're part of the action.
Yeah, so let's take a step back. Everyone seems to know what a volcano is, or at least the basic functions of an active volcano, at least. But for those that aren't sure, how do volcanoes form, and what function do they serve geologically?
Yeah, absolutely. So volcanoes usually form on the faults between plates in our sort of geologic world. So you have the Earth, and the Earth is made up of these different plates, and those plates are sort of moving around. So you may know that the Earth didn't always look like it does right now. A long time ago, it actually had a single continent, and we call that Pangaea, the supercontinent. And these plates have sort of been moving around and adjusting because they're basically just floating on a layer of sort of magma. So they move around and adjust, and sometimes they'll adjust in such a way that it allows some of that magma to come up to the surface as lava. So that's actually where a volcano is forming. The volcanoes that we see most often are usually in the Ring of Fire, which is all around the Pacific Ocean. We have active volcanoes in Hawaii, here in the United States. There is a dormant supervolcano in Yellowstone. So that one, there is some volcanic activity, but it's not actually lava coming up to the surface. And we have volcanoes all through that Pacific Ocean as well. There was one that went off just a couple of weeks ago and took out travel in the Pacific Ocean. So volcanoes are happening all around us, and it's really just because those plates are sort of moving around, and there's gaps that can be created so that magma can come up and come out the surface as lava. Really cool, really dangerous.
We're joined by Paulette Epstein, who is an astronomer and planetarium director over at the Michigan Science Center, joining us on the Megacast. Their showing of the film The Fires of Creation, which is an IMAX movie at the Michigan Science Center, begins airing Saturday, February 19th over there at the Michigan Science Center. You can learn more information on the Michigan Science Center's website at mi-sci.org. That is Michigan Science Center's website, mi-sci.org. And so, Paula, talking about volcanoes, you mentioned that one just recently went off in the Pacific off the islands of Fiji and Tonga. But we have a lot of volcanoes all around the world. You mentioned even the supervolcano that's located right here in the U.S. At Yellowstone National Park. So what causes a volcano to go dormant? You kind of mentioned what causes it to go active. What causes it to go dormant, and why for so long do we often see these volcanoes have next to no activity?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for example, the volcanoes in Hawaii, the hole is actually moving around, and that's how the islands of Hawaii were actually created, because it was here for a long time, and then the tectonic plate moved a little bit, and the next island was formed by this magma coming up, and then the next island. It's because of the movement of these tectonic plates. Sometimes there's no movement at all, or these holes sort of fill themselves in. So we don't have a lot of volcanic activity. For example, here in the Midwest, there actually was a lot of volcanic activity a long time ago, but now we don't have any volcanic activity because that rift has actually sort of filled itself in and become dormant. So even though we were able to we had volcanic activity about 2 billion years ago or so, we don't have any volcanic activity here in the Midwest now.
And so, Paula, you mentioned some of those volcanoes in the Midwest. There actually were some right here in the state of Michigan in the Upper Peninsula. Where were some of those located? And you mentioned now because those rifts in the earth were then filled in, they're dormant. Are those volcanoes still in existence and able to be seen despite being dormant?
Yeah, absolutely. So the volcanoes in the Upper Peninsula actually helped to form Lake Superior and the area around there. Because of the volcanoes that we have in the Upper Peninsula here in Michigan, we actually have a lot of copper and a lot of heavier metals. Those were actually formed by that volcanic activity. And you can see a lot of those volcanic rocks, specifically when you take a look at sort of the edge of and the cliffs down into Lake Superior. You're able to see some volcanic rock. Some of it is normal rock that we would normally expect in that area, but some of it is also volcanic rock. And it's very interesting to sort of take a look at that area because we didn't know it was volcanically active until relatively recently.
We're joined by Paulette Epstein, the astronomer and planetarium director over at the Michigan Science Center. More information on their website, mi-sci.org or mi-sci.org to learn more about all the activities over there at the Michigan Science Center. And so the last major volcano that erupted here in the U.S. was Mount St. Helens, but there are plenty of other volcanoes that are located in the U.S., including that supervolcano you mentioned at Yellowstone National Park. that timeline on when these volcanoes go into a period of activity versus a period of dormancy, it varies location to location. It all really depends on the movement of the tectonic plates in the Earth. Are there any volcanoes in the U.S. Off the top of your head that at this time may be close to that point in the estimation where they may be active again soon?
Well, so it's funny that you say that, because the supervolcano at Yellowstone is actually at that point. We think that it could potentially start to be more active relatively soon. And when I say relatively soon, we are talking about in the history of the Earth, so it could happen in the next million years or so. But that is relatively soon in our timeline. It could be tomorrow, it could be in a million years, we don't know. But Yellowstone has actually become a little more volcanically, like we can tell that there's a little bit more activity happening in Yellowstone, and that it's sort of coming out of that dormancy. And so we've definitely been keeping an eye on that one, because it is a huge, huge volcano. And if it erupts, it will not only affect us here in the United States, it won't just affect people in the Western United States, it'll affect us here in Michigan, and it will also affect the entire world, because that volcano is so big.
And so, Paulette, how do you go about predicting when volcanoes may be active again, or when that activity may come to a point of eruption? How do experts that are tracking this information ultimately predict when, or forecast even, when these eruptions could happen or that activity could come back?
Yeah, absolutely. So they track it in a couple of different ways. They track it by feeling the seismic activity around the area. So the more seismic activity, the more active the volcano is going to become. They also can track it using just signs and things. So for example, I said that the supervolcano in Yellowstone is becoming slightly more active. And so what we're seeing is we're actually seeing more geysers, we're seeing more heat, we're seeing things that point us to the direction that it could potentially become more active in the near future. So that seismic activity, or the vibrations of the Earth, are really what pushes us to be able to get a better idea of when these volcanoes are going to become more active, but also just watching them and noticing even slight changes that are happening. Another thing that actually happens is animals can sense it before humans do. So a lot of times, like, animals will clear the area around a volcano before it erupts, so that they are safer. And so following animals and how they move, their migration patterns, all of that can also give us clues as to when volcanoes are becoming more active and when they could potentially erupt.
We're joined by Paulette Epstein, Planetarium Director and Astronomer over at the Michigan Science Center. Their showing of Fires of Creation opens February 19th in its Toyota Engineering four-dimensional theater. The Michigan Science Center will have more information on that online on the website mi-sci.org. That's mi-sci.org to learn more information. Paulette, how long will this film be showing over at the Michigan Science Center?
We do plan to show this film through the end of this year. So it'll start, like I said, this weekend. Saturday and Sunday is our opening weekend for this movie. And we do plan to show it through the end of the year in our Toyota Engineering 4D theater.
Learn more information about Fires of Creation, when you can see this film, this IMAX film, in their four-dimensional theater of the Michigan Science Center by visiting mi-sci.org. Paulette, thank you very much for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much.
Can I ask you a question? Why did you get your kids vaccinated?
It was hard for them to social distance, to be isolated from their friends.
I want them to get back to school and sports games. So as a pediatrician, I recommend the vaccine to everyone I know.
The boys lost a former teammate and classmate who was only 20 years old. It's been a devastating year.
We want to get back to normalcy. Our daughter is really looking forward to being with her friends, being a kid.
It's the Great Lakes water. And so what people do ends up in our waterways.
Flushable wipes are just evil. They should be thrown away. They're impossible to destroy, and then they can cause significant problems.
One of the main things when you're cooking is to not dump fats, oils, and greases down your drains.
They stick to the sides of pipes, they stick to everything they come in contact with. Don't put it down the sink.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources, call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
We may come from different organizations,
but we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Neighborhood storm drains carry water directly to local creeks and streams. No filters, no treatment.
Storm drains also help reduce street flooding when it rains.
So clearing storm drains and the areas nearby of trash and leaves helps keep them for rain only.
It is easy to do your part by adopting a storm drain.
Find a storm drain, check it, and clear it every month.
So keep storm drains for rain only.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
We as Michiganders feel connected to this resource in a way that I think is really powerful.
Conservation starts with a caring, committed community.
For me, it's peaceful to have a relationship with the river.
Every single one of us has a role to make sure that those waterways stay safe and healthy, being careful about what goes down the storm drain.
Just even eliminating some of your single-use plastic makes a difference.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Did you know that nearly 3.31 million Americans don't get their annual checkup? Going to the doctor regularly is extremely important and is a crucial factor in maintaining good health. Make sure you are visiting your local doctor often and telling them about any health concerns you have. For more information, contact your local healthcare provider. This message is brought to you by WBHS Digital Media Arts Program and 89.3 Lakes FM.
People are getting out to walk and bike in higher numbers. More vulnerable road users and higher speed traffic can be a dangerous combination. Crash severity has increased, so if you're driving, be sure to slow down and look for people. There's no need to speed. If you're biking, ride with traffic. If you're walking, avoid stepping into the road if possible. If you have to walk in the street, walk facing traffic. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources, call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
do a lot of worrying. Get your kids caught up on childhood vaccines to protect them from these 14 preventable diseases, and you'll have 14 fewer things to worry about. Vaccines are safe and effective and save lives. So let's get caught up on vaccines and worry about something else. Get the facts at ivaccinate.org.
We're in the middle of winter. It's cold outside. There's not much to do. So where do you go? You go to the movies, and especially when we're in the thick of awards season now, you're going to want to be seeing some of those movies that are going to be bringing home the hardware very soon. The best person to talk about that, to make sure you see the good ones and leave the rest to everybody else, is Nate Adams from theonlycritic.com. You've also read his reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. He's with us once again on the Megacast. Nate, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Tyler, and a happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I'm so glad that they spread that around today. So yes, thank you. One of many surprises so far as I walk into the studio today and further realize I'm old. Let's begin with the movies. The Oscars are coming up, and we have Academy Award nominations that recently came out last week, and a lot of new faces across the board in the nominations this year, but a lot of familiar faces as well. A record nomination for Denzel Washington, as he once again is nominated for Best Actor in a Leading Role. We also see some other stars that are commonly up there, like Jessica Chastain, nominated again, and some surprises even that have been in the folklore of the movie industry of the last 10 years or so, but haven't quite got that recognition yet. People like Kristen Stewart, who's nominated for Best Actress in a Leading Role. So let's start with just the movies in general. In terms of those movies that we're going to be seeing nominated in a lot of these categories that we've seen nominated and may win multiple Oscars, what are among those that you think people should be seeing?
Well, it's a very eclectic lineup this year because the Academy Awards, last year with the pandemic, the lineup was kind of slim in that there wasn't, a big populist film. Nomadland won last year, which was a very little seen film. I mean, probably most people saw it at home where it was streaming on Hulu. This year it's an improvement, but at least there's you have a Dune, right? Dune's nominated for 10 Oscars, which is the only film, by the way, out of the 10 nominees, because this year the Academy said they're going to stick to a straight 10 from here on out. So hoping that a big budget blockbuster film might be able to break in. And this year that happened to be Dune, which had been long favored to get a ton of nominations. Some people had predicted maybe Spider-Man No Way Home, which is currently the highest grossing film of the last 10 years or so, one of them, was going to break into the field, and it didn't. But the Oscars are also trying to combat that this year. The Academy had just an initiative now they're going to have on Twitter where folks can go online, they can use a hashtag, and up to 20 times a day they can vote for their favorite film, and then on the telecast they're going to reveal that pick. So I guess that's where Spider-Man could get in. As far as what to see, a lot of these films, just like last year, are going to be available on streaming, so a lot of folks are going to be able to see it. The Japan International Film Entry, Drive My Car, made it into the Best Picture field, which is also riding on the coattails of Parasite a few years ago, so that's really nice to see. Folks will be able to stream that on HBO Max starting in March. Nightmare Alley, nominated for Best Picture, directed by Guillermo del Toro, is already on Hulu. Coda, which was my #1 film of 2021, a great film, which CODA stands for Child of Deaf Adults, is on Apple TV Plus, which is their first nomination and Best Picture. But a lot of people are talking about The Power of the Dog, Jane Campion's adaptation of the Thomas Savage novel. It's got the most noms, 12 nominations. It's streaming on Netflix, and this might be the first year. Every year, a streamer always gets close to taking that top prize, but every year preceding this one has always gone to a major studio that released films theatrically. This is Netflix's best chance at finally, after I don't know how many nominations, they might be able to crack the Best Picture field.
We're joined by Nate Adams from theonlycritic.com. He's a film critic. You can also read his reviews on Rotten Tomatoes as well. And so you mentioned Netflix kind of breaking that mold, and maybe this year is the year that they finally get through after they've been nominated for some of their some of their pictures in the past, but have not won the physical award.
They've come so close. Right, they've always come so close.
Right, and so you're saying that this may be that year where they pull through. You also mentioned Spider-Man: No Way Home as one of the top-grossing films of 2021. It was highly acclaimed by those that are superhero movie aficionados and those that are just casuals going to see the movie because it was a big hit. Do you see as these superhero movies, especially these franchises and these cinematic universes that are becoming more common, as these films become more popular and become more mass appeal, do you see any of those in the future, especially with the quality we had in Spider-Man: No Way Home and in other films recently, that some of these may actually break through and be considered for some of these top prizes?
Yeah, it's definitely not impossible because we saw Black Panther break into the field in 2019, was nominated for Best Picture, which was a groundbreaking landmark achievement at the time. And I don't think that that could definitely happen again. The reason why the Academy expanded the category to 10, because before it was 5 to 10, and now it's guaranteed 10 every year for the hope that something like a populous film like Spider-Man could break in. You remember in 1998, everybody was tuning in to see if Titanic was going to win Best Picture because Titanic was a huge film. And the whole reason, Tyler, that the Academy expanded the field was because, I don't know if you remember, but it was a huge controversy that The Dark Knight didn't get a Best Picture nomination the year it was released, because obviously in this day and age, like, Dark Knight is heavily regarded now years later as one of the best, not only one of the best films of all time, but the best superhero film of all time. It is for me. And to see that a movie like that, and the scale and the way it was made and the artistry and the mastery behind the scenes, that it didn't get a Best Picture nomination was baffling. So the Academy noticed that, and that's why they expanded the field. So do I think that in the future more could break through the mold? Absolutely. It just is a matter of, what's the right film buzzing and popping at the right time. There is a Black Panther sequel that's coming out soon. Is that going to change the narrative? I really thought Spider-Man: No Way Home might have had a shot, but this year was kind of jam-packed. And Dune did make $100 million plus. Probably would have made more had it not been released via HBO Max and theaters at the same time. And there's a sequel on the way. So, there is a populous film in the mix, but as far as like a big, mass, wide 4-quadrant film, that is missing from this lineup. But the lineup is very eclectic. You got Licorice Pizza. We talked about Don't Look Up. I would argue that Don't Look Up is as huge a hit as any of these films, even though it didn't release. Most people saw it at streaming on Netflix. I heard more people talk about Don't Look Up over the Christmas holiday than I heard about any film this year, because of the topics and the conversation and the debate about what the film means, and people are still talking about it coming up and chatting weeks later because of the buzz. So I know Power of the Dog is the favorite, but don't be surprised if Don't Look Up kind of somehow sneaks in there and wins, which would actually cause complete chaos, because I don't know if you've seen the reviews. The reviews are very, very mixed. It's one of the lowest rated Best Picture nominees of all time. I was a big fan of it. I was on the side of I loved it, and a lot of people that I talked to seem to enjoy it too. So Best Picture is really supposed to represent, they say it's like a moment in time, right? It's representative of that year. And so, Don't Look Up, with its message of climate change and, maybe pandemic and politics, is it the most timely? Maybe. But, there's an argument for every movie. I'm sure that could be good. Belfast, Kenneth Branagh's, black and white story about his childhood, long rumored to be the favorite. But then I don't know, fun fact to the day, the Best Editing Oscar, most people don't know this, is a huge bellwether and precursor to the Best Picture nominee. Only 10 films in the history of the Academy Awards has won Best Picture without an editing nomination, and Belfast missed that nomination. So that kind of puts Power of the Dog back at the top. Fun fact of the day. I'm kind of, if people need their facts, right?
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing to consider too, because these are ultimately, as much as we see the mass appeal of the movie industry, and we kind of see these as, okay, this is the awards for the best of the best in all these different categories. If you think about it, ultimately what it comes down to, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences is tasked with deciding on which are the best from a filmmaking standard in each of these categories, and editing is a huge part, arguably one of the more critical parts of what makes a film great.
And people talk about, well, the Oscars, are they relevant anymore? Because, to me, some of my favorite movies didn't get nominated. None of them. Like The Green Knight was a great film, got 0 nominations. So, if you like what you like, don't use the Academy Awards as like this, end all be all that, it has to be the best in film. But I will say that it is still important, and it is still vital. And it's really the only thing that we have, in the sense that half the people would not have seen Parasite, a Korean language film, had it not been nominated for Best Picture. Nobody's would have seen Drive My Car had they not nominated. Like, nobody would have checked out Power of the Dog, even though they might not like these movies, or they might not, they might think they're slow or boring or whatever. The fact that they're even checking them out is only because they're getting this type of buzz with nominations. So I do think that is important, in that it does introduce people to a new form of cinema that they might not have otherwise seen. It's like my parents might not have seen some of these movies had they not gotten the buzz of the Oscars. So they are important in that aspect, but also, you can still like what you like, even if they're not nominated for awards. It doesn't have to mean it's the end of the world.
You can read Nate's film critiques at theonlycritic.com. We're joined by Nate Adams, of course, from theonlycritic.com. You can also find his reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. And so it brings up another interesting point. We go back to the competition that's there in the movie industry right now, the expanded competition with streaming being a critical output for a lot of these movies during the pandemic, and it's kind of changed the paradigm for what's going to happen after the pandemic. From a studio's perspective, studios that have been more so focused on those theatrical releases and are looking to go back to a similar format that we had pre-pandemic, what adjustments are they going to need to be making going forward to continue to be competitive with these streaming services that are becoming more popular, that are growing that mass appeal, and that are providing the greater exposure to some of these movies because of their easy access at home?
So I think the number one thing that they're going to have to do is adapt. We saw this Moonfall opened a couple weeks ago, and it cost like a colossal amount of money. It cost about like $160 million to make, and then it tanked at the box office. I think studios are going to have to learn on the balance sheet that movies don't necessarily have to cost an arm and a leg in order to be theatrically, viable. Jackass Forever was a film that cost, I think, $20 million to make, and it's already in the red. Scream came out in early January, was made for $20 million, and it's made $80 million. It's like, I think they need to economize their budgets a little bit if they're going to try and go the theatrical model, unless it's these big budget superhero films. You can still make a small budget, drama or a horror film. Horrors are the most profitable film in the business. $5, $10, $15 million. I think what needs to happen is we don't need to spend $60, $70, $80 million like they just did on this Death on the Nile remake that came out over the past weekend. So that's going to be a key component as far as what films are going to be making it into the theatrical only landscape. And it's going to take like a Bridesmaid or a My Best Friend's Wedding, that type of romantic comedy to kind of rejuvenate that genre. And I don't know when that's going to come, because all those films are being relegated to streaming. But I think if the studios can figure out a way to, get the budgets down and try and, work in the mold, that might work. I watched a film called I Want You Back. It came out on Amazon Prime over the weekend. One of the best romantic comedies I've seen of the last 3 or 4 years, okay? And that premiered on streaming. I was thinking to myself as I was watching it, there was a time when this movie would have probably legged it out to $100 million at the box office on good word of mouth because it's so good. And now I'm watching it at home with my significant other on the couch, not sharing in that communal experience. So it just becomes a term of, what's going to make the most sense. And right now it's superhero films and big budget films and maybe kids films. Sing 2 made $130 plus million, which is the best showing for a kids film. So, you got the Batman coming up in a few weeks. That's probably going to be there, but it's going to be tough to see what mid-sized film that's not a horror film, that's not based on an existing property, that's not a superhero film, that is going to break through. The highest grossing adult drama, pure adult drama from the last year since the pandemic began was House of Gucci, which made $50 million. And I would argue that was because it had the strength of Lady Gaga, which she was notably snubbed for Best Actress this year at the Oscars, much to the ear of her online Twitter fan base.
We're joined by Nate Adams from theonlycritic.com, joining us on the Megacast, talking all things Academy Awards. And so we have a couple more minutes with you, Nate. Let's go rapid fire down the line with some of these key categories and get your predictions. Best Actress in a Leading Role, we have, of course, Jessica Chastain for The Eyes of Tammy Faye, Olivia Colman, The Lost Daughter, Penelope Cruz in Parallel Mothers, Nicole Kidman, Being the Ricardos, and Kristen Stewart in Spencer. Who do you see in Best Actress?
So the odds have the favor of Nicole Kidman for Being the Ricardos. But I will say another statistic here is that this is also going to be hard to predict. Best Actress is the one category that is completely up for grabs because no actress has a film that crosses over with Best Picture. So usually there's like a favorite where you can like link the two. It's like, oh, well, they like that movie more. But Kristen Stewart also missed the SAG nominations, which No actress in the history of the Academy Awards who did not get a SAG nomination went on to win Best Actress. Can Kristen Stewart, who has a lot of love for Spencer, break that for the first time and make history? Maybe. Right now I'm going with Kidman, but do not be surprised if Stewart sneaks up in there and gets the gold.
Best actor in a leading role, also one that people are going to be looking out for. What are your predictions there?
This is also a coin flip. It's going to be either Benedict Cumberbatch, who's got a lot of love for The Power of the Dog, or Will Smith for King Richard. I have the edge slightly for Will Smith because, it's kind of his due. It's his second Oscar nomination. Every actor in this category has been nominated before, by the way. So that's someone's going to get either their second or their first win. So I'm giving the edge to Will Smith, but it's close too.
All right, maybe I should finish this off by asking you who's going to win Best Editing, and that will take care of 2 categories. But I'll finish with Best Picture. What's your prediction?
I think it's going to be Power of the Dog, and then Jane Campion's going to ride that Best Director win, which would be history because it'd be the first time in Oscar history back-to-back directors were won by females, which would be great to see.
Nate, anything else to be looking out for in the movie industry coming forward for us?
The summer movie season's coming soon. Like I said, Batman's on the rise. We got some Marvel TV shows, Top Gun Maverick, Doctor Strange, the next Jurassic Park film. So movies are bouncing back, and it's going to be an exciting time for theatrical to watch that and see. And then also streaming. There's a lot of stuff coming at home that everybody should be getting. Netflix has a robust lineup of films coming that's going to be, you're going to have options every which way. So it's a good time to be a content consumer.
Yeah. Nate, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Tyler, and I hope you have a great birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We may come from different organizations,
but we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Most of the pollution that goes into our rivers is carried by rainwater that flows off of roads, parking lots, and rooftops.
The leaves and bark of a single tree can retain a surprising amount of rainwater. Depending on its size and species, it could be 100 gallons or more.
It is estimated that an urban forest can reduce annual runoff by up to 7%.
Here's one thing that we know can help keep our water clean.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior. These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance. They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different. One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games? Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate. So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's the second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Whatever gets you talking.
Today, it is easier than ever to join Michigan's Organ Donor Registry and help build a bridge of hope for organ, tissue, and eye donation. Just one person can potentially save or help improve the lives of up to 75 people. By joining, your legacy could be the gift of life. Sign up today at michigan.gov/SOS or at any of the more than 145 Secretary of State self-service stations located across Michigan. Be part of Michigan's Bridge of Hope by adding your name to the Organ Donor Registry. When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources, call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit, or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
Whether you're the city,
the county,
or the Huron River Watershed Council,
we work together to protect water resources for everyone.
Most of the pollution entering our rivers is carried by rainwater that runs off roads, parking lots, and rooftops.
a rain garden helps catch stormwater runoff.
Rain gardens and their plants help dirty runoff soak into the ground.
You can do your part to help keep our water clean.
Learn about rain gardens and native plants.
So consider a rain garden in your home landscaping.
Catch the runoff with a rain garden.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
I couldn't breathe at all. There was lots of talk about putting me on a ventilator. I thought I was gonna die. I was 39 weeks pregnant and had a scheduled C-section. During that time, I got COVID and was hospitalized for a month. I had a blood clot in my lungs. It caused me to go into right-sided heart failure. I was really scared. I kept texting my husband and my mom, telling them how scared I was, and I was worried that he was gonna grow up without a mom. And then I was worried if, when I did get home, that he wouldn't know who I was. You know, being 27 and a mom and a wife and having that all almost taken away from me. It's scary, and if a vaccine can prevent that from happening, why not? Get your vaccine. I don't want this to happen to anybody else.
A message from the staff of Michigan's Crime Victim Compensation Program.
Anyone can be a victim of crime
and suffer lasting trauma, physically, emotionally, and financially.
But you are not alone.
If you're struggling financially due to a crime,
we're here for you.
Find out if you qualify for crime victim compensation. Call 877-251-7373 or visit michigan.gov/crime-victim.
A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Victim Services.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around. And I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanting to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike? And you did. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Welcome back to the Michigan Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe. You can learn more information about the Michigan Megacast by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find everywhere that we broadcast live from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, Monday through Friday, as well as live to tape and on demand. Find all of our interviews and full episodes as well. civiccentertv.com/megacast. Joining us now on the Michigan Megacast is Jamie Wolfe, the Vice President and Treasurer, as well as the Co-Founder of N.B.S. Animal Rescue, a Share Detroit supported charity and nonprofit. Thank you for being with us today, Jamie.
Thank you so much for having me today, Tyler. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to have you with us. First off, tell us about N.B.S. How did the organization begin, and what services do you provide as an animal rescue and shelter?
Yeah, so we started in 2011. I met Rebecca Akins and Aaron Fortin when we were all volunteering with another animal rescue organization in the area. And we became very good friends. We were very like-minded and decided that we wanted to start our own animal rescue organization back then. So we officially opened up our doors in October 2011. We were truly a grassroots organization. We started with an absolute shoestring of a budget. I think we each brought $300 to the table to start the rescue and build a website. And we started building relationships and connections with different area shelters. And obviously, we already knew a lot of different people in the rescue world to begin with. And we started rescuing dogs. We took our passions and turned them into N.B.S. Animal Rescue.
And so your primary goal, or among your primary goals, are to rescue and rehabilitate animals that you will find that are homeless, that are in need, and then educating the community on that process and the need for adopting pets that are going to be in need of homes. So let's start with the finding of the homeless animals and the immediate treatment. How often does a rescue like yours find these animals, find these homeless animals, and then what often is the condition that you're finding these homeless animals in and then needing to care for them?
Those are really good questions. So we work primarily, and every single rescue is a little bit different here in the state of Michigan, but we operate primarily right in the Metro Detroit area. So we stick to the Tri-County area. We work with a number of different shelters, the Macomb County Shelter. We work with Oakland County. We work with Detroit Animal Control. And we are generally pulling animals out of shelters. Because our rescue specifically, we focus on small breed dogs. So obviously a young small breed puppy that doesn't have any medical issues is very easy for a shelter to adopt out. The animals that we get called in on are generally the older animals, the seniors, or the ones that have a serious medical issue. And so we take in a lot of high medical cases, dogs that maybe need some kind of extraneous surgery. Sometimes it's a severe dental. Sometimes it's a luxating patella, which is where the kneecaps pop out of place and it needs to be surgically corrected. Sometimes it's eye removals because a lot of small breed dogs can battle eye issues. And so the dogs that we take in generally have high medical needs to begin with. And that's our baseline of where we start with each one of our animals, is generally getting that baseline done of their medical needs being taken care of first and foremost.
So between the shelters and animal rescue such as yours, in the Tri-County area here in Metro Detroit that you mentioned you serve, what typically is the way that these homeless animals are encountered? Are they often stray animals that are injured, or are they more so animals that are unfortunately for one reason or another abandoned by their homes?
Yeah, so we see a litany, basically all of the above. When we're dealing with the shelters obviously are taking in animals. Sometimes they have animal control officers that are working on the streets, picking up stray animals. They are obviously first and foremost trying to find their home. But if no owner comes forward looking for their animal, then the shelter will begin searching for a rescue for that animal. Sometimes it is people find themselves in unfortunate situations, life changes, and they have to surrender their dog. And so they may surrender the dog directly to the shelter. Sometimes we have owners actually reach out directly to us as well as a rescue because they know that we serve small breed dogs specifically, and so they'll reach out to us directly. And sometimes it can be a veterinary hospital. We have random cases where a veterinary hospital, some family can't maybe take care of a dog any longer, and the veterinary hospital is helping to facilitate finding the animal a new home, and so they'll reach out to us. So there's a number of different ways that animals end up homeless, and we work to change that, and we work to fix that for them.
We're joined by Jamie Wolfe, the Vice President, Treasurer, and Co-Founder of N.B.S. Animal Rescue, joining us on the Megacast. More information about the rescue on sharedetroit.org by going to their Find a Nonprofit link and searching N.B.S. Animal Rescue, or by visiting their website directly at nbsar.org. That is nbsar.org. And so, Jamie, how has the pandemic impacted the way that your animal rescue operates, and then the needs of your animal rescue out in the community?
Yeah, so the pandemic definitely had a very big effect on us as well. One of the things that we do with all of our adoptions is we do what's called a home visit. And the purpose for us in doing the home visit is when a family is approved to adopt a dog, we take the dog to the home. If there's other animals in the home, we help facilitate the introduction to the new dog. We talk about the animal, and we just spend time with the family, really educating them about this particular animal, because every single animal has its own needs. During the pandemic, we actually stopped doing as long of home visits, and we actually started using technology like Zoom to do the introductory meeting, to have that with our new adopters and make sure that they're still getting the level of education that our previous adopters were on their particular adoptive animal. We also were impacted because veterinary costs increase, as many costs have over the past year and a half. Some veterinary hospitals have had to eliminate or reduce rescue discounts that they often have been able to give in the past. And we saw a lot more lead times with being able to get certain procedures done, which unfortunately caused us to have to delay adoptions until some of these basic things were taken care of for the dogs. So it definitely has impacted us, and we have worked our way through it, one step at a time.
Yeah, circumstances change, and the impact of those circumstances changes the paradigm for any organization, for any nonprofit, for any charity, and certainly for animal rescues, considering all the things that have gone on during the pandemic and the early rush to adopt animals, and unfortunately by the middle of the pandemic or just in the past several months, a little bit of that rush to then bring animals back or abandon animals has also played a factor. And when those circumstances change, the needs of these organizations change with those circumstances too. So at this time, Jamie, what are some of the greatest needs of your organization that the community may be able to help with?
Yeah, so I mean, our biggest needs have actually stayed relatively consistent. Foster homes. Foster homes are the lifeline to a rescue such as ours. We do not have a shelter, for example. Right. We are what's called 100% foster home based. We don't have animals in a centralized location. Each one of our animals actually goes into an individual foster home so that they can recover, be assessed individually. And so our foster homes are the absolute lifeline to our rescue. So having dedicated foster homes who are willing to take care of these animals are key to our existence and survival. So that would be always our number one need, are the dedicated foster homes. And our group of foster homes at N.B.S, I mean, we're a little family in and of ourselves, and we absolutely love our fosters and do everything that we can to support and take care of each one of our foster homes. And then obviously donations. We are not state or federally funded in any way, shape, or form. All of our donations come from our dedicated volunteers, adopters, supportars, and so those are going to be our two biggest needs.
More information on the website nbsar.org. That is nbsar.org. They are also one of 277 charities and nonprofits supported by Share Detroit. More information about all 277 of those organizations, including N.B.S. Animal Rescue, at sharedetroit.org. We're joined by Jamie Wolfe, the Vice President, Treasurer, and Co-Founder of N.B.S. Animal Rescue, with us on the Megacast. And so you mentioned fostering a critical role of what your animal rescue is able to provide to our community. If someone is interested, or a family is interested in fostering some of these dogs and these puppies that are coming in to N.B.S, what goes into the process of them becoming a foster, and then what is that obligation then from there forward once they do become a foster home for these animals?
Yeah, so anybody interested in fostering can go to our website, and our website actually has an entire section dedicated to fostering along with the foster home application. A foster home goes through the same exact application process that one of our adopters do, because our goal is obviously to make sure that these animals are getting into good, safe places. And fostering is exceptionally rewarding. It can be very difficult, obviously, saying goodbye and letting go of your first or second foster, but it gets easier with time when you're able to see a dog transform literally in your home and then be adopted out to a new family. Many of our adoptive families send pictures and updates consistently, which is really great for a foster home. The commitment really comes down to love and time. N.B.S. strives to take all of the difficult legwork out of, having to gain supplies or having to pay for any kind of vet appointments. N.B.S. handles all that. We have in Sterling Heights, one of our co-founders, Aaron Fortin, has a business himself, and he has a warehouse that has a ton of supplies. And so we will supply a foster home with any physical thing that they would possibly need. We coordinate all of the veterinary care. We can even help facilitate getting an animal to and from vet appointments. We have a foster and volunteer page where if you're going on vacation, another foster or volunteer can take your dog in for a week or two. So our goal is to take care of literally everything that somebody would need to take care of a dog and allow the foster to just love, respect, and get to know this animal so that we can find that animal the best possible home.
Well, Jamie, thank you very much for joining us. Before we let you go, anything else that we should know at this time about N.B.S. Animal Rescue?
No, I just wanted to take the time to thank you. Also thank Share Detroit for allowing us on. We're a grassroots organization. We work off of a shoestring budget that has no kind of marketing dollars. So allowing us to be a part of a broadcast like this is very important to get the word out about who we are and what we do. So thank you very much to both you and Share Detroit.
Appreciate it. Again, you can learn more information about N.B.S. Animal Rescue in a couple of places. ShareDetroit.org by looking them up in their search charities and nonprofits section, or by going directly to their website at nbsar.org. That is going to do it for this week's Megacast episodes. We want to thank you for joining us, as well as thank all of our guests on today's edition of the Megacast. Jamie Wolfe, the Vice President, Treasurer, and Co-Founder, of course, at N.B.S. Animal Rescue, who we just spoke with, as well as Nate Adams from TheOnlyCritic.com, Paulette Epstein from the Michigan Science Center, Pamela Good from Beyond Basics, and Cynthia Weber-Hesselick from the Wayne and Joan Weber Foundation, and of course Dr. Jamie Tawil from Grand River Medical Associates. You can view all of these interviews on demand on your own time at our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll also find links to every single one of our partnering television, radio, and web outlets, so you can learn more information about their other original programming throughout the afternoons and weekends and all the other 22 hours of the day, Monday through Friday, that they are not broadcasting with us outside of our regular Megacast time. civiccentertv.com/megacast. Highly encourage you as well to go to our coronavirus page at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus to keep up to date on everything that you need to know about COVID-19 from the Federal Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, as well as the Oakland County Health Division. In addition, on our coronavirus page, our top headlines making news all across the state of Michigan each and every day, so you can keep up to date on both COVID-19 and everything else that is affecting everybody all across the state of Michigan in every single region. Again, that is going to do it for today's edition of the show. I want to thank our crew as well. Calvin Brown, our technical director, in the studio with me for 2 hours every day, Monday through Friday, making sure everything is running smoothly here on the Megacast. The king of television himself, Larry Nyland, our producer, getting all the guests booked and ready to come on the show, and then helping us, of course, get ready to have a nice conversation with them. Our Zoom producer, Jared Clark, out at the office of My Michigan TV over in Troy, Michigan, for helping all of our guests get onto the show and helping them, of course, with any technical difficulties that may arise. And then, of course, Maddie Mushkin out of Master Control, helping us on and off the air each and every day. On My Michigan TV, Steve Leto live, and then Larry and Maddie live are next. We will be back Monday morning at 10 a.m.